question that I'm exploring these last couple weeks and perpetually is, what does the bottom-up revolution look like? The inside out. How do we have a revolution inside of ourselves and at a local level, like the most local, like internal, and then, within our communities as well. Happy Sunday, y'all. It is 12/12/21, and it's Sunday. It's my Sunday sermon, and just sharing what I've been thinking about, what growth I'm making, kind of like a journal, philosophy journal for you all to hear. And I've been having some great conversations with some great friends recently. One that I had today was about just how do we make a better world? Like, what's the future look like if we're going to make it, when we make it? And that future, like, how do we get there? And she was talking about kind of accounting for ecological impacts that are currently externalities in business. And so ecology, biodiversity, how do we account for these things to use capitalism and markets to save valuable resources that are currently not being valued by the market? Which is, fascinating. And I was noticing that, like, that's way outside of my expertise or peg rate. And it's like, I don't really know about those giant satellite level systems, but I'm more interested in bottom up rather than top down. And right, there's a place for top down and there's a place for bottom up, and I'm interested right now mostly in the bottom up and the inside out. And so the question that I'm exploring these last couple weeks and perpetually is, what does the bottom up revolution look like? The inside out. How do we have a revolution inside of ourselves and at a local level, like the most local, like internal, and then, within our communities as well. And I'm actually thinking about starting a discussion circle about this next year. So if that resonates with you, let me know. Because like, it's not just me. Conversation is so much more fruitful. And I know a lot of people are thinking about the same thing. So the inside out revolution, what does it look like? It's different for every person, depending on what you're working with. But how do we revolutionize from the inside out? The important part about this is that it's about empowerment and realizing that we have choices. That's the only thing we actually have, is our individual choice. And we can individually choose to, like, lead a collective movement, but a lot of people have to individually choose that. And so how can I practice making courageous, strong choices on a small scale? And like, that's where kind of like recycling and composting comes up, or like doing eco-friendly things, which is cool. And that's, there's a lot more that can be done. For instance, getting a little deeper, why do I act the way I do is based on my thoughts and my feelings. So if we reflect on our thoughts and our feelings, we can better understand why we're taking the actions that we take. And so that, again, is like a way that we can be empowered and in control of our lives, because ultimately there's, our collective systems are the result of a ton of individual choices, right? So like, the change is going to happen from a bunch of internalized choices. And so one of the deepest layers of that I've found is acknowledging and facing our own shame, or our shadow, the thing about ourselves that we don't want to admit. Like these deep core beliefs about myself, maybe, or, so I use I statements, but the core beliefs about ourselves that are creating our actions that we're not aware of, It's kind of early imprints, patterns that we've developed before we were fully, adult, and that we're now doing unconsciously. Those are driving a lot of our reality, whether it's addiction or unhealthy patterns. We can really improve our lives on an individual level when we get in touch with what's really going on inside of us. What am I thinking? Why? What am I feeling? Why? What am I like repressing within myself? And this comes up in a lot of social change places, like the Me Too movement. A lot of people's reaction is, that's not me. I would never. I'm not that guy. Or like the BLM movement. It's like, I'm not racist. I don't need to be anti-racist. I'm just not racist. And right? That's like a denial and a repression of internalized misogyny or internalized racism that everyone carries to a degree. So if we're repressing and denying our own bias, our own darkness, we can't change those things, because we can create systems out there to like teach our kids, but we're still going to pass along our internalized biases subconsciously. Like it happens all the time. I could go into it, but just with the way that we say things about people, gives our kids biases. And that's how they're passed along, regardless of like how we act, or actually including how we act. So that's the work that I'm excited about. I've been excited about doing men's circles. Helping men show up in more healthy ways in the world is like a huge part of changing the world from the bottom up, because better relationships, better kids, better work relationships, healthier, like less addiction, less suicide, all these things, from like a personal growth type realm. And it's like some people are more into that than others, but like everybody has to get into it, or else these things are going to perpetuate these systems, psychological biases. So yeah, that's the stuff that I'm tossing around. I'm reading this book, Meeting the Shadow, which is about this, and just like how we repress ourselves, and how we have a lot of embracing to do of the parts that we've repressed, especially the feminine energy. So yeah, that's a cliffhanger. Talk more about that next week. Take care. So I invite you to reflect on where in your life you want to grow, whatever level that is. Maybe it's a parenting class, maybe it's jujitsu, maybe it's self-care bath night. Like it can show up in a lot of ways, like one step at a time. And reflect about how you are decolonizing your own mind, and yeah, how that looks to you. What can you do to help birth this revolution from the inside out? Okay. Let me know. Let me know in the comments, and hit me up if you want to be part of a discussion group. It's been real. Happy Sunday.